really, really ugly. So Sean Payton was available and really, really interested. He told me that. Brian Daboll was available and really interested. He didn't tell me that, but somebody in the organization did. And the Chargers instead went with the least experienced option on the market, the cheapest option on the market, and you get what you pay for. And then they stubbornly doubled down this year and kept him, and we knew he wasn't the guy. And for all those wondering if the issue is Justin Herbert, I give you last night, finally a game without him. It's a shell of a franchise. No culture, no vibe, no toughness, that does nothing well. The longer Staley's been there, like a bad CEO, the less they do well. And I've got to tell you, I've been banging this drum for 2 to 3 years, and I know you're tired of it. I do not understand NFL owners and GMs that don't see the obvious truth. The most important thing is to get the quarterback. Chargers got one. Then go give him an offensive coach to get him through the little turbulence and just stack the weapons. Kansas City, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Cincinnati, Miami, Jags. It's not that hard. It's what you do. The Chargers only have 1.5 legitimate weapons. Probably shouldn't have given injury-prone Mike Williams an extension. Austin Eckler, half a weapon now. Keenan Allen's great. 1.5 weapons and a defensive coach. What are we doing here? Look around the league. Look what's working. 11 of the 14 playoff teams today have offensive coaches. Last night is what we're seeing in the NFL. Pittsburgh, New England, Seattle, Chargers. Got to use a backup? Man overboard. Embarrassing to the owners and the franchise. Now, Baltimore's got a special teams/defensive guy in Harbaugh, but they do it right for Lamar. They keep adding weapons. They completely support him. They go get another running back, another wide receiver. They change offensive coordinators. Justin Herbert was just step one, and you deserve credit for getting that right. But what this franchise needs now, after Herbert, is a culture creator, because you clearly don't have one and can't create one. Mike McCoy couldn't create it. Anthony Lynn couldn't create it. Norv Turner couldn't create it. Brandon Staley can't create it. I mean, there's a term out there called chargering. That is a term, chargering. That's making fun of your culture. You know who's not going to change a culture? A guy you hired with 4 years total pro experience, 1 as a coordinator. That was your choice. If you're going to make a choice on young and cheap, go offense. Help your quarterback. Don't go defense. Stop spending money on defense. You don't need another rush end. You don't need another corner. Go get one in the 6th round. That's what the Chiefs do. This football team quit. I would go get Jim Harbaugh. Open up the wallet and get a big boy coach. This team quit on Brandon Staley. Jim Harbaugh's teams can be flawed. They never quit. Never. Jim Harbaugh's teams get better over time. The Niners did. Stanford did. Michigan did. Staley's team got worse over time. Go hire the opposite of him. A big, strong, forceful, offensive coach, head coaching experience, won on so many levels. Harbaugh's the opposite of Brandon Staley. He's an alpha. He's offensive. He played the game. He's got experience. He's a culture creator. That's the opposite of Brandon Staley, and that's what you need. And for God's sakes, can you respect the head coaching profession? What are you doing hiring a kid with 1 year of coordinator experience? What are we doing here? Respect the profession. If you got to go defense, go to Dan Quinn. Again, elite multiple-year coordinator. Good head coach to the Super Bowl, got fired, but I got years. He's got alpha. He's got tough. What are the Chargers? So they don't have a culture. Chargering's a term. Go hire a culture creator. I'd prefer offense. I'd take Dan Quinn, but I'd prefer offense. So you got the quarterback right. You already blew the window for a Super Bowl. The Chargers, I'm told, within the last 2 minutes have fired Brandon Staley and their GM, my friend Tom Telesco. They fired them both. I feel bad, but they're spending the money on the wrong side. They don't have enough weapons. They don't have a culture. What are we doing? Respect the sport. Respect the culture. Respect head coaching. This was an egregious hire. And then you double down on it. So it's official. The Chargers have fired Staley and their GM. I think they actually have good players. I would have kept the GM. I think they have good players. They made a mistake on a corner in free agency. Free agents hit about 35% of the time. They also got Khalil Mack. He's played pretty well. But, you know, you have to get somebody who changes how we view the Chargers. Because, I mean, when you talk about the Chargers, it's like a running joke in the league. This is not just, hey, we're going to solve it with another coach. The right coach. Support Herbert. Get him more weapons. Watch Philadelphia. And Philadelphia, by the way, may be struggling. It's not for lack of weapons. Kansas City has had great weapons. They pay their quarterback a fortune. So now they've got to find new weapons. But they keep adding them. It can be a 7th-round running back. It can be Rashee Rice. They can go get Ladarius Toney, and Toney can drive you crazy. But it's weapons. And they have an offensive coach to figure it out. So it is official. The Chargers, you know, those standalone games, they can be great to sell your franchise. But when you get beat like last night, everybody gets flushed out. Doesn't happen very often where the story I'm talking about has breaking news while I'm talking about it. And the team now has just confirmed the report that the Chargers have fired their head coach and their general manager. So again, this is not a terrible job. You've got a quarterback, you've got the left tackle, you've got one good weapon, a running back you have to make a decision on. You've got a Bosa, Khalil Mack edge rushers. You have one corner I like. You got to move off some of these older non-vital positions like Derwin James at safety. You may have to move off your center you went and got from the Packers and spent a lot of money on, but he's banged up. But this is not Carolina. Like with a crazy owner who'll just fire you. We wanted Brandon Staley fired last year. Everybody in the world's like, this isn't working. It's getting worse. He's a defensive coach. The defense is getting worse. Like, everybody wanted this thing last year. So the Spanos family, you can have criticisms, and I have them, and I know them. But they gave him another year. Like, this is not Carolina bad. This feels to me a little like New Orleans, where I've got a roster. I've got some things in place I like. I've got a quarterback, though Herbert's better than Derek Carr. I've got some weapons that are okay. I just don't have the right coach. And the coach, either Dennis Allen or Brandon Staley, is on the wrong side of the ball. But the Chargers currently have the 5th overall pick. So that's another benefit. That's a huge benefit. They don't need a quarterback, and they don't need a left tackle. And at the top of this draft are quarterbacks and left tackles. Herbert's not playing the rest of the year, so you may end up with a 4th pick. This is a really, really uniquely good job. This is like, remember when the Packers moved off McCarthy and Matt LaFleur gets that job and you're like, all right, they're not winning now, but I've got Aaron Rodgers. He's a little prickly, but I've got a running back I like. I've got a couple of offensive linemen I like. This is potentially a really good job. Don't screw it up. The Chargers right now have the 5th pick. Herbert's not playing. They probably end up 4th or 3rd. They do not need a quarterback, and they do not need a left tackle. You could move this thing and get another 1, another 2, and this roster's not terrible. It's not as good as we think, but we've seen this before. Go look at Denver. We thought the Denver Bronco roster was really weak at the start of the year. I did, you did, everybody did. You got the right coach, and now you look at the Chargers and you look at the Broncos now, and you go, oh, I like that safety. I like that corner. I like that linebacker. Oh, DJ Jones pretty good. Cortland Sutton's, has been excellent. I like both their running backs. Oh, their left tackle can play. You go to the Broncos. Broncos had a similar situation. We thought the Broncos were a mess. Last year, beginning of this year, they got the coach right. Now I look at the Broncos, and they're not a great team, but I'm like, oh, I got some pieces I like here. I watched Denver the last 6 weeks. I'm like, this is not a rebuild. Denver's not a rebuild. They'll probably move off Jerry Jeudy, but Mims can play. Cortland Sutton can play. I like their tight ends. I like their back. I like their left tackle. Quarterback's good enough. Head coach. So to me, this feels very Denver. And you'll probably end up currently the 5th or the 4th pick. Get the coach right. They sync everything together. Brian Daboll is winning with Tommy DeVito. They're on a heater. They got the coach right. Saints have far more talent, don't have the coach right. So this is not Carolina. This is not one of the 4 or 5 really awful jobs. There's a lot of meat on this bone. There's a lot here. And now they finally made the decision they needed to make.